Welcome to High Infidelity, the best cheating videos on YouTube. If you enjoy this content, remember to subscribe and turn on notifications. Now let's get into the video.
Found out that my wife cheated on me, so I got revenge and had an affair with her sister. Part 2. Update. I failed to mention that I'm calling my ex-wife Jessica and my sister-in-law, who I've been calling Sylvia because it's amusing. We've informed everyone, and for the most part it's gone down well. Sylvia and I went to visit my parents while our children were with my in-laws. They've met her a few times, but they don't know her very well since my in-laws and I seldom attend mutual occasions. At the very least, they recognized her. My father isn't especially sentimental, so I'm not sure what he thinks about it, but my mother is on board. She did ask, "Does Jess know?" And we told her that I hadn't talked to her in 4 years and Sylvia hadn't heard from her in 2. And that we'd crossed that bridge when we came to it. Aside from that, my parents looked pleased for me. We went to my in-laws' house yesterday for a small family gathering for Labor Day. We thought the response would be a bit colder here since they're all linked to my ex-wife. My parents did us a favor by bringing the kids to the zoo for the day, complete with ice cream. We all arrived to the party together, and everyone is asking where the kids are. It seemed like a million things were telling me not to do it, but I grabbed her hand in mine, and we both explained that the kids weren't here because we were going to inform everyone that we were now a relationship. It wasn't a big audience, maybe 8 people, but it seemed like I was announcing it to a stadium. I'm not sure how we anticipated it to go, but some of her aunts were overjoyed. We received some embraces. Nobody addressed my ex-wife at first. They were just content since they had all agreed that Sylvia would never date again. Mil was the only one that created any problems. She informed the guests that she knew we were a couple because I was constantly giving her puppy looks and that Sylvia was always talking about me. She inquired as to how long we had been secretly dating, and I informed her that we had just been dating for a week. She sneered and told me that she didn't believe it was a good idea to start a relationship by lying. She then accused, although jokingly to the attendees, Sylvia and myself of disappearing during a pool party in June to smooch. Her mother and father approached us after the party and inquired as to how serious things were, and like my parents, inquired as to whether or not my ex-wife was aware of the situation. When I answered no, and that her opinion shouldn't matter since she abandoned her family 4 years ago, they suggested they'd be more at ease if I told Jessica that I'm now seeing her sister. They are both terrified that my ex would return clean and regenerated, try to make apologies, learn that I have fallen in love with her younger sister and relapse. It seemed to me as if they knew something I didn't, and it turns out Jess has been phoning and talking to them for a year and they simply haven't informed me, which irritated me. Sylvia was also furious since Jess had never attempted to contact her following her husband's death. They show me her Facebook page, which she has banned me from, and she seems to be normal, rather than a burnt-out husk. I have to confess that seeing her not look like the addict she had been when she left helped me and Sylvia feel a bit better. Her parents kept communication with her private because she is embarrassed of what she's done and believes she deserved to lose her children and couldn't face them after what had transpired. Sylvia's parents provided me her phone number and requested that I contact and chat with her. I informed her that my emotions for Sylvia were genuine and that there was no way I could reconcile with Jess. Phil looked to nod in agreement, but Mil seemed to be expecting we'd repair things. After we departed, I told Sylvia about it, and although we had discussed it previously, a situation in which Jess reappears, we agreed to revisit the subject in light of these new disclosures. I told Syl that I love her, that my entire heart belongs to her, and that my emotions for her are deeper and stronger than anything I ever had for my ex-wife. She ends up sobbing as a result of the stress of the situation, her parents maintaining secrets, and her sister's failure to contact her or give condolences following her husband's death. She then confesses that she is frightened I would abandon her if her sister returns, but I promise her that this will never happen. It took some lengthy hugs and kisses to calm things down, but by the time we went to pick up the kids, we were holding hands again and felt more connected than ever. Since we've started dating, she spent a lot of nights at my house. So that the kids don't notice anything, I've been setting my alarm at 5 a.m., getting up and going to the sofa. So, the next morning, we decided to inform the kids what was going on. Our children seem to be quite delighted, but they are too little to understand what is going on. All they know is that they may play together more. I took my kid aside, just the two of us, and asked him whether he was comfortable with it and what he thought about it. When he inquired whether we be living together, I answered him that maybe eventually. He questioned whether this made his aunt his stepmom, and I told him he's free to call her anything he wants, and I'll respect it, as would she, since we both love him. He then asked me a slew of questions about his own mother, ones he'd never asked me before, and I answered almost all he wanted to know. I toned down some of my responses. He'd heard a bit about the hazards of drugs through school programs, and I was finally honest with him to that extent when I told him his mother had a problem and had made some poor decisions. That crushed my heart when he inquired why his mother didn't love him. I tried my best to reassure him that his mother loved him, but she had made a lot of awful errors and that sometimes grown-ups simply don't do the right thing when they should. He inquired as to whether I still loved her. I told him that I hoped she'd get well and that I didn't want her to be ill any longer, but that she had wounded me and him so much that I couldn't love her like I used to. I'm not sure he understood everything, but I did my best to explain it to him. All that aside, he's been more happier and less reclusive since Sylvia joined us, and he's constantly going out of his way to do all the traditional child things to please her that I did with my own mom. At the end of the day, I still have to deal with that phone call from the ex. But having Sylvia with me being able to kiss and embrace her at night restores a sense of pleasure in me that has been missing for a long time. I didn't understand how miserable I had been all these years until I saw how joyful she made me feel. We've been doing all the typical joyful young lover things. She's been sending me love messages in my work lunchbox, even little poems, and I've had flowers sent to her workplace. She indicated that a couple of the females at work had been trying to persuade her to ask me out for many months, so I decided the flowers would make her happy while also serving as a solid thank you wink to the office gals, haha. Thank you to everyone who posted or messaged me on the first and second blogs. You brightened my day and helped me maintain my cool enough to confess to her. Feel free to ask me anything, but I believe this is the last of my updates. Update. What you're about to read is a remark I made about a week ago that I simply copied and pasted since it's good enough to make a post. It contains information on how the phone call with my ex-wife went as well as some other information. I spoke with her in September, and I intended to post an update on this, but life got in the way. I did write a 10-paragraph post about a month ago, but my laptop died, and I lost everything, and I became disheartened. The ex-wife is doing much better and is on the mend. By this time, I've been clean for 8 months. She ultimately revealed the specifics of the affair and how things transpired, as well as how she became addicted to medications. Not what I wanted to hear, but she's trying to get her life together. And as much as I despise what she's done to me and the kids, I want her to be well. I shouldn't, yet I still worry about her. Anyway, when I finally told her about Sylvia and me, she was astounded. When I first met my ex, she was 19 and Sylvia was 14, and in her mind, she always viewed Sylvia as a kid in regards to me, which to be fair, I did refer to Sylvia and her kid sister. But when she remembered that her sister is a fully grown adult who is married and has a child, her hinting that I was a creep stopped. She did question whether I had emotions for her when I was married, to which I said that I did not. We spoke about the kids and she was really sorry and sobbing the whole time. She's not sure she'd be able to face them again. I wanted to say something comforting, but I didn't want to give her the sense that I wanted her to be a part of their lives. I'm polite, even pleasant, but I'm not foolish. She and Sylvia also spoke for a while. I didn't listen in on purpose, but based on what I heard and what I was informed, they were discussing Sylvia's husband. My ex had been caught for a BNE that week and had spent it in prison. She didn't even know he died until a few weeks after the burial, and by then she was afraid that saying anything would make things worse. Everything went as well as could be anticipated. Sylvia, the kids, and I have spent practically every day together, and I haven't been happier in years. My son and daughter have been enjoying all of the motherly care they've been receiving, and I've been enjoying learning more about my little niece. Everything is fine. It's hectic, but it's nice. Thank you for inquiring. I Thinking about simply copying and pasting this as my update, haha. Okay, there was my comment update, and not much has changed in the week since I posted it. If anybody has any questions or comments, I'd be delighted to address them as soon as I can, but my workload rises dramatically during this season, and I don't have as much time to be on here as I had when I originally posted. I'm so pleased I had the courage to approach her. I'm madly in love with her. I've been so long without a romantic companion that I've forgotten what it was like to be in love or to be loved. Now that I think about it, I'm surprised I didn't know how lonely and unhappy I was. For Christ's sake, we played Scrabble last night, and that made me extremely happy, haha. Update. We've been living together for a year now, and I couldn't be happier. We're presently living together and looking for a new place to live. Our children benefit much from having two parents to care for them. Our girls have started calling each other sisters, and my son is getting the same treatment. They are, in essence, ordinary siblings. It's fascinating for my kid. When he speaks to his classmates or teacher, he refers to Sylvia as his mother. But when he calls or speaks to her, he still refers to her as auntie. And our girls are the same as I am uncle. Some people are perplexed by it, but it's always an intriguing tale to tell. We haven't had much communication with my ex-wife since my previous article, but she seems to be doing much better. Has a half-decent job, a boyfriend, and is trying to stay clean. I don't want to think of her being reintroduced into my children's life, but if she remains a clean and well-rounded person, it will be much more difficult for me to refuse her visitation if she requests it. Not just from a legal position, but also from a moral one. Sylvia and I aren't looking forward to that day, but our concerns seem unfounded. Her parents have ceased interfering in our affairs and have not attempted to reintroduce the ex into our life as we had anticipated. Our children now spend the weekend with them, as my two did before. So Sylvia and I get to spend Friday night and most of Saturday going on dates and spending time alone. Our common friends were all taken aback by this and have been quite supportive. They try to be courteous and avoid bringing up my ex-wife, but it does come up from time to time. Most people are simply relieved that we found happiness together. The family of her late husband was one side of the family that I neglected to mention in all of this. Her daughter, as you would guess, still sees them on a daily basis, and they are extremely happy and tolerant of the connection. His father even told me flat out that he was relieved it was me, since he was afraid his daughter-in-law would bring some weird guy into his granddaughter's life. We haven't had many get-togethers due of COVID, but the ones that we have had have included them and will continue to include them. Sylvia and I have spoken a lot about our thoughts about her late husband, and she's even had me come along to one of her therapy sessions, because despite things going so well, and the enormous and amazing love we have for one another, his memory and presence will always be a part of our lives. She decided on her own that she needed to remove her wedding ring out of respect for me, which caused a lot of grief, as you can understand. I told her she didn't have to do this, and that if we were married, she'd have two hands. After I told her this, she started wearing it as a necklace instead. She is currently wearing an engagement ring. I don't have any amazing stories about how the engagement happened. I didn't pop the question in front of her in some huge public spectacle, but there were tears and embraces and kisses. If you have any questions, please let me know. Thank you all so much for your kind words of support.